At dawn, the group stood by their up-armored Humvee amid Krespice's ruins. Cold metal and rubble framed grim faces, warriors weighed down by another day's fight. Connor McLean, bandaged from leg wounds, gripped his 50 cal, counting the 6 days the medic promised until he could run again. "Heads down, boys," he murmured in his Irish accent. "Each mile forward is another into the bear's den." The engine roared to life. Harvey ran a hand through his tangled hair. "Goodbye, Krespice. Hello, road to Krakow." They all knew the stakes. Bare trees lined the silent road. Gravel crunched under tires. Ruined buildings and overturned cars marked their path. As Częstochowa loomed, its empty streets felt stolen of life. William Money's knuckles whitened on the wheel. They rolled past a battered marketplace where scattered goods lay among gaunt figures. The air reeked of desperation and radiation. "Don't linger," Wolfguard warned. William agreed. Scavenging risked poisoning. Harvey added, "That market looked okay. Maybe we grab some NBC gear and return later." A vendor's feeble wave tugged at Wolfguard's heart, but memories of fallen comrades steeled his resolve. "Drive," he ordered, locking eyes with Connor. Regret churned in his gut as they left the haunting market behind. This was a good decision, as stamina checks would have had to have been made for radiation poisoning if they'd stopped to trade. The group avoided a nasty situation. Częstochowa's ghosts faded in their rear view. Ahead lay Krakow and uncertain hope. The rusted gas station sat silent amid the gathering dusk, its shattered windows like broken promises against the blood-orange sky. Behind it, the concrete block diner loomed, a squat fortress against the encroaching sunlight. Otto and Harvey crouched in the tangled underbrush, pine needles digging into their knees, watching half a dozen marauders in tattered Soviet uniforms patrol the graveyard of wrecked Fiats and Škodas. 3 on the roof with AKs, 3 by the rusted metal door, Otto whispered, steadying his PSG-3 sniper rifle against a lichen-covered rock. Harvey scanned for angles through his scratched binoculars, the cold metal biting his face. Memories of past battles in Krespice tightened his grip, his trigger finger twitching involuntarily. "Roof first," Harvey agreed, the words forming small clouds in the chill air. Otto counted down, his breath measured. 1, 2, 3. They fired in unison, the crack of rifles shattering the morning sun's stillness. 2 bodies crumpled onto the corrugated metal roof with hollow thuds. Chaos erupted as the remaining marauders scrambled for cover behind bullet-riddled cars, shouting panicked orders in Polish. Wolfguard ordered the vehicles forward into the contact with Gordon Richards and Chuck Schick pressing on foot. 50 caliber rounds thundered against the diner's brick wall, sending concrete dust billowing skyward. "Keep them down!" Richards shouted over the deafening barrage. Their comrades' hail of armor-piercing bullets shredded the facade, punching fist-sized holes through the weathered structure. Acrid smoke, agonized screams, and the metallic stench of gunfire filled the air. When the dust settled, revealing splinters of wood and chunks of masonry, only one marauder remained, hands raised, blood seeping through his sleeve. Gordon Richards leveled his rifle. "Talk." "I'm with the Jagged Sword or the Sit Zerbiak," the man stammered. "Poland is for Poland." Harvey exchanged a look with Otto. "What do you know?" The captive's voice shook. "I know this country isn't for you, that's what I know." Harvey hesitated, then lowered his gun. "I hear you, friend, we just want to get home ourselves." "So what are you Americans going to do to me?" Richards gave a curt nod. "We're not executing anyone today. Get out of here." Harvey motioned. "Be gone, buddy." No sooner had they just secured the site, boots shifting, hushed whispers, when a crackling radio shattered the silence. "Operation Reset Charlie Charlie Lima Romeo 3, a garbled voice announced. Wolfguard tensed. The group clustered around the receiver. Gordon snapped, "What is it saying?" Wolfguard's instincts for military intelligence and special ops kicked in. He recognized a Caesar cipher, shifted 3 letters left, grabbed a pen, and decoded the message. Compromised. Before anyone could react, Harvey's whispered warning cut through the static. "Don't trust something, TER. He has the DI something." Suspicions flared. Otto's breath hitched. The radio looped fragments they pieced into letters and numbers, each clue ratcheting up the tension. "How do we know it's the real deal?" Otto asked. "We can't ignore it," Wolfgard replied. "It mentions reset." Chaos was their only constant. Harvey began to pace. "What's our move, Oscar?" Wolfgard considered the risks hinted in that single word, compromised, but he also knew any good intel turned the tide. He squared his shoulders. "We continue to Krakow and find someone who knows something about this message." The men exchanged wary nods. Trust was brittle, but survival demanded unity. They shouldered their gear and stepped away from the radio, every eye on the horizon and every mind replaying the message's warning, "He has the DI something." With that in the front of their minds, they started their engines, and onto Krakow they went. Outside Krasnov, and after a successful scouting check, Wolfgard pressed his face against the cracked corner of a farmhouse wall, counting vehicles through his scope. The Soviet convoy, a battered T-55 tank followed by a Gaz E-66 truck, kicked dust clouds into the afternoon air. His pulse quickened. These might be the same bastards from the 35th Guards who'd been dogging them since Kalisz. "Perfect spot for an ambush," he whispered, shifting to make room for William Money beside the wall. The dull mechanical growl grew louder. Behind a fractured wall, Chuck watched roughly 14 to 16 infantry trudging alongside the vehicles, weapons slung with the casual arrogance of conquerors. His finger twitched against his rifle's trigger guard. He glanced over to the others crouched in the shadows of the abandoned farmhouse. Sweat-streaked faces nodded in silent agreement. No one needed to speak the obvious. This was their chance to hit back. "Here they come," Oscar whispered, voice barely above a breath. His heart raced. William, crouched low, adjusted the Panzerfaust III on his shoulder, testing the weight with expert ease. Beside him, Wolfgard thumbed the launcher of his RPG, muscles twitching with excitement. He'd hit a man in the chest with an RPG 4 days ago. Surely a tank is easier, he thought to himself. They exchanged a nod. No words needed, just an understanding forged through combat. "Remember, when the RPGs fire, we fire. Stick to the plan," Connor reminded himself, his eyes hard like steel as he glanced at Terry, who prepped his 50 cal machine gun, both ready to unleash hell. The tension thickened, crackling like static in the air, and every second stretched like eternity. The first shot rang out, the loud crack of William's Panzerfaust echoing through the quiet, a bolt of death slicing the air. The round screamed over the T-55, an explosion erupting behind it, tearing the ground apart in a furious plume of dust and debris. Soldiers shouted, confusion rippling through their ranks. Chuck's heart raced faster as he watched from the ruin he was atop. They had thrown the first punch and missed. Yet the enemy was still caught unawares. Before the initial chaos could settle, Wolfgard unleashed his RPG. The projectile hurtled toward the T-55 with ferocious speed, the impact striking the side armor. Metal screeched as the projectile exploded into its side, not penetrating the armor but causing minor blast damage, eliciting panicked cries from the crew as they bolted from the tank like rats from a sinking ship. Adrenaline washed over the group, each prepared to capitalize on the moment. "Fire, fire, fire!" Wolfgard shouted, his voice cutting through the din. Harvey and Gordon opened fire, their rifles barking loudly, spitting lead into the advancing infantry. 2 soldiers dropped instantly, their bodies crumpling like marionettes with severed strings, while others stumbled, eyes wide with shock as they sought cover. Connor and Terry kept their 50 caliber machine guns aimed, mowing down enemies as they tried to regroup. Bullets whizzed, embedding into walls and splintering wood. Chuck ducked and aimed, shifting his gaze from one section of infantry to the next, trusting his comrades would cover him. One enemy soldier fell, then another. The growing chorus of screams and gunfire twisted into a wild cacophony as confusion erupted among the Soviets. Each pull of the trigger felt cathartic, a reprieve from the helplessness that gnawed at them day after day. But then he saw them, the tank crew realizing their vehicle remained intact, scrambling back to mount the T-55. The moment drew close. Chuck could feel it in the pit of his stomach. "Wolfgard!" he barked, pointing. "Now!" In an instant, Wolfguard dashed forward, an embodiment of focused rage, grenade clutched tight in his hand. The group held their breaths as Wolfguard closed the distance, every movement purposeful. Multiple mobility successed in his heart-stopping rush, adrenaline flooding through his veins as the Norwegian grinned, a gleam in his eye that could only come from sheer determination. Time stretched, slowing to a crawl, as Wolfguard reached the tank, chaos exploding around him. He hoisted the phosphorus grenade and tossed it into the open turret, a flaming comet plunging into darkness. The grenade landed, igniting an inferno within the T-55, the rush of flames roaring to life in a way that felt alive and almost sentient. A blast of fire erupted from the tank, sending men tumbling backward. The screams drowned out the gunfire, and Wolfguard stumbled back, heart racing as he watched the crew inside realizing their doom too late. The ammunition detonated, an explosion that seemed to shake the ground beneath them, enveloping the tank in a hellish blaze. The remaining infantry, having lost their nerve, broke ranks and fled. Their faces twisted in fear, they sprinted into the underbrush, stumbling in their rush to escape. The team, behind the farmhouse's cover, emerged victorious, exultation mingling with disbelief. "Keep a lookout," Gordon Richards called, scanning the area for any lingering threats, his hands trembling, heart hammering as they grasped their fleeting victory. They had struck hard and fast, an ambush etched into the annals of their survival. The roadway smelt of cordite, piss, blood, and burning flesh. A smell you think they'd gotten used to by now, but just hadn't. Wolfguard stood among the group, his eyes wild with the thrill of the fight, the remnants of chaos smoldering around them. Connor and Terry, not believing what they'd just witnessed, manned their 50 cals in disbelief. "You're some kind of soldier Oscar to pull a stunt like that," said Connor. "Or you've got a death wish," said Chuck. "Speaking of death wishes, I've been hit," said Otto. "Yep, me too, but nothing serious," Harvey added as he bandaged his arm. No sooner as they finished talking, a number of sickly and malnourished figures began unloading from the Gaz-66, American and NATO soldiers. Amidst the wreckage of the Gaz-66, a brittle wind howled, carrying the stench of smoke and death. Shadows emerged from the debris, ragged figures clutching their knees against the chill. They stumbled into the muted light, revealing faces that were gaunt, sunken, reflections of suffering that mirrored the desolation around them. Chuck Schick blinked against the dull light, disbelief mingling with horror as his eyes settled on the emaciated prisoners. One of them, hollow-eyed and fever-ridden, staggered forward, holding onto the steel frame of the wrecked vehicle as if it was the only anchor in his world. "Charlie Manfred Jensen," he rasped, his voice crackling like dry leaves underfoot. "CIA, you're not one of them." His gaze swept across the group, searching, desperate. Chuck glanced at Connor McLean, the assassin's hard features softened for a fleeting moment. The weight of survival pressed heavy on their shoulders. "What do you need?" Connor asked, his tone steady, belying the chaos surrounding them. "5th Mech Infantry Division," Charlie sputtered, his words punctuated by labored breaths. "I need to get to Colonel Randy Buckhauser. I have urgent intel for him. My old comrade, Zbigniew Biggie the Bear Kowalczyk. He oversees the Blackstone Tavern in Krakow. Get to him, he'll help you." His voice faltered as he leaned heavily against the Gaz-66, an echo of his prior strength, now nothing but memory. The name hit like a hammer. Chuck nodded as he looked to Gordon Richards, despite not knowing Biggie personally. The stories of the tavern whispered among soldiers, a neutral ground, where enemies could share a drink rather than a bullet. He felt a ripple of urgency course through him. "What's the catch?" Charlie's eyes flickered with shadows of old laughter. "He might not believe you at first. Tell him that underneath his watch are the words, Mojemu bratu, skało mojo miłością, which in English is, to my brother with all my love. If he doesn't buy that, then tell him that I shagged his sister Moya," he croaked, an absurdity to his request even in this hell. "And if that fails, tell him that she died of leukemia in '96. Chuck exchanged glances with Otto, who shook his head slightly, a mix of disbelief and dark humor painting his features. "This guy sounds like a riot," Otto muttered. though the gravity of their situation snuffed any lightness that might have come. Biggie's been through the ringer, Charlie continued, his words spilling out in desperation. SKW operative, Bosnia, Serbia. He's seen things, he knows the game. He doesn't like the Soviets, but it's a balancing act for him. The tavern, he allows it to operate. Safe dealings, no assassination, for the most part. Safe, Connor scoffed. In this hell. Everything's a risk, McLean, but right now, it's our best shot. Chuck spoke firmly, a conviction forming as he gripped the edge of the Ghazi 66. He surveyed the ragged group, understanding simmering beneath the surface of their exhaustion. Each man had a purpose. Now, they had a chance at survival. Charlie's gaze was pleading, desperation etching deeper lines into his face. We all must go. Let me take the truck and these guys to the 5th, get them help. As for Biggie, he can help get you set up in Krakow. A heavy silence settled among the group as the enormity of their task sank in. They had ventured into a landscape ravaged by conflict, and now they stood at the threshold of a new endeavor, linking up with someone who might bridge the abyss that separated them from salvation. A ghost of hope flickered in Charlie's hollow face. Remember this, Biggie doesn't give trust easily. Lie to him, he'll throw you out. Double-cross him. He drew a finger across his throat. There's no second chances. Message received, Wolfguard said, his voice steady despite everything. We'll hold position tonight. First light, we'll move on Krakow. Charlie nodded once, then turned away. Both he and the skeletal prisoners scavenged gear from Soviet corpses, moving like hungry crows. When the last man had climbed aboard the captured Gaz-66, Charlie punched the horn twice, and the truck lurched forward, disappearing into the gathering dust. The group looted what was left from the dead Soviets, some 6 AKMs, 2 PKMs, all with 1 reload, reliability rating of 3 and 2 RPGs with 1 reload each. They now made camp, healed wounds, and ate dinner. Tomorrow they'd deliver Marietta to her grandparents and meet Biggie the Bear at the Blackstone Tavern. Finally, the free city awaits them, to be continued.